Welcome, everybody. I am super excited that you were able to join me this evening to talk about not only weight loss, but more about the foundational aspect of weight loss, which is the gut. So the title of this program is Trust Your Gut. And we're really going to talk about 3 tips that really come into play when we're talking about a healthy weight. So let's go ahead and get started here. And my first slide, always, I have to kind of go. All right. So I want to kind of lay the foundation today on what we're going to talk about. And it actually is laying the foundation of weight loss. Why is weight loss multifactorial? So if you have heard us talk or you've been in our clinic, you know, we're always talking about the fact that there's so many components to weight loss, and we really try to simplify it, but we have to acknowledge it. So we're going to discover the top 3 tips for optimal gut health and long-term weight loss, and really get ready to lose. We want people to lose weight for good. And that is why we developed the VIP3 program, which I'm going to talk more about, because this is a program that really is going to set you up for success. And you're going to create a plan for yourself, because everyone is very different, and it's all about that personalization aspect. So just to kind of, just going to try to, so you guys, I can spare you from all of the other things on the screen. So weight loss is multifactorial. What comes into play when we are talking about weight loss? So lifestyle habits obviously are very, very important. And stress and sleep probably are just as foundational as some of the other things that we'll talk briefly about. But I think we all need to start thinking about the world that we live in, the modern world that we live in, because it is very different from when we were a child. It's very different from when your parents were children. You know, we are exposed to so much that is affecting our health, and we need to keep our guards up. We're going to talk a little bit about hormone imbalances, insulin resistance, mental wellness, how that all comes into play, nutrient deficiencies. And I think a lot of people believe that, you know, because we have access to food all the time, that we could never possibly be deficient. But trust me, we are more deficient than we've ever been before. And you'll understand that as we go through this. And last but not least, which we talk about a lot, we throw this term around a lot. And I am even going to help you understand this even more. So in order to be successful, you really need to reset your metabolism. When you lose weight, you have to burn the abnormal fat stores. This is really not about just losing weight, because that could be anything. We have to strategically target abnormal fat stores. We have to heal the gut, because you're going to understand why that plays a role. You have to apply foundational nutrition, because it's like anything else. And I give the analogy all the time. It's like throwing seed on dirt. It does nothing until you cultivate and nourish the environment. Become more in tune to your body. We're so focused on other people, which is good, but we're ignoring the signs that our body is telling us. And it's really about solidifying the behavioral, the emotional, and the lifestyle habits, because that will really set you up for long-term success. So why am I here today? If you've been on one of these webinars, you've kind of heard the story, but I'm feeling a little more comfortable with talking a little bit more about myself. I have always been a very shy, quiet person. So I'm not one to always open up about some of the depths of just my life. And I still, I'm not going to bore you with all of those details, but I think it's important that you understand who I am and what my motivations are. So I truly believe that I was born with an interest in health and just the human body. I mean, I just from an early age, would ask certain questions, and I tell a story about my dad all the time because I would follow him around the yard and ask him about, how he built, because he was very muscular and and I always wanted to understand, like, why was one person this way and why was another person this way. So my experiences and circumstances in my own personal life has taught me a lot of lessons. I also had an unhealthy relationship with food. I was a very high performing athlete, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I also dealt with a lot of gut issues, and hence that's why I have brought that in. My experiences have basically transformed the way that not only I think about health and staying healthy, but how I look at everything, how I look at the system, because I truly, I do believe that it's flawed. And I think we have a system that is set up to really manage our illness. And there's really minimal attempt to reverse conditions when, as you will learn from this presentation, that majority of conditions are lifestyle, conditions and are reversible. So my background, from just a nutrition aspect, I went to the UW-Madison. I got a degree in dietetics. I went on to Mount Mary College, got a master's in nutrition there. I have a certificate in integrative health and functional nutrition, which is more of like the whole body approach. I did get a certification as what we refer to as a LEAP therapist. So that's essentially like a food sensitivity expert. And as I said, I was a high performing athlete and a member of the US national team. And I want to tell a story about that briefly, because I always think about different things to bring to people, to help them, to relate to them, because so many of the different experiences that we have in life, they're similar, but they're just slightly unique to the person. And when I tell you that I was on the US national team, to put that in perspective, that is one of 18 people in the United States to play for that team. So to take that a step further, I was an alternate for the United States Olympic team in, it was early 2000s. And so I did not go to the Olympics because I was an alternate. I was an alternate for the Olympic team. I still have the letter that basically says you did not make the Olympic team, you are an alternate. However, if someone gets hurt, you are going. And so as I think I was 19 at the time. And so as you can imagine, as a 19-year-old, you're kind of like, okay, so this is women's soccer. I could potentially go to the Olympics. This is the second time that they've been in the Olympics. I mean, so this would be part of history. And so I never ended up going because I was so long story short, they take 15. I'm on a team of 18. I would have been first to go if somebody got hurt, so I never won. So long story short, the self-talk and the self-sabotage justified a failure. And so I never thought, I should have been there. I deserve this. It was more like, it doesn't matter. US soccer no one really cares about it. So that talk track continued in my head. And I still, as I think about those situations, I think that really kind of set my ceiling for the sport, because I would tell myself that. And I tell you this story because I feel like a lot of people they talk to themselves in a way that sets a ceiling for their potential. And the second you turn that around, which is what I've been able to do eventually in this whole business that now I've created, is that there's so much potential and there's a purpose for your life. So until you tweak that and turn that around, that's when really profound things can happen for you. So we will talk about that. So I wanted to get into a little more detail about that because I think it's an important piece or important part of why I'm here today. So what I have learned about myself is that, you know, as I had stated, I've had really debilitating gut issues. And what I have learned over time is that these gut issues has, you know, basically resulted in Hashimoto's disease, which is a thyroid condition. Many people have this, they just think it's an unfortunate thing, but it's typically a gut issue. You know, again, I talked about my self-talk after getting cut from the Olympic team. I had experienced some weight gain as a professional soccer player. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but that was not due to calories or exercise. It was due to inflammation in the body. Digestive issues that I dealt with was due to massive gut imbalances and infections. This was not due to not enough Dulcolax or Miralax. You know, we need to dig into the reasons why we're experiencing these things. And that's essentially what we're driven to do all the time. So my insane drive to heal myself when really nobody else could. And I saw over 30 different doctors. And so because of that, I took it on myself and I've been able to help myself. And that's why I'm here today. I talk a lot about my story and many different health topics in our new podcast. So definitely you can look for that at Weighing In at Weighless MD. So our approach at Weighless MD is that we say it over and over again, but we can't only focus on calories and exercise. Gut issues, which right now that might mean nothing to you, but it has to be addressed because it plays a role in every aspect of our body. The human body is sicker. Like I had mentioned, you know, we live in a modern world. And what we're exposed to now is not what people were exposed to 30, 50, 100 years ago. So we have to adjust to that. Personalizing programs and nutrition is basically the future, and that's what's going to keep you successful, you know, long term. We are all about teaching, educating, and empowering patients so you all have the tools and the skills for success. You have the tools and the education to go into your doctor and question some of the things that maybe they're recommending. You know, we're having these conversations all the time, and sometimes it's as simple as really preparing you for really what's going on in your own body. So we have lots of bonuses today. This is the first one. And anyone who sticks with us for the entire duration will receive a quick start booklet or a guide that essentially we put together that outlines 5 steps to vibrant health. So you will get that complimentary if you stick with me for the. I say we because I have my partner in crime who is kind of managing all this. So as you guys ask questions, she'll manage that and pass them on to me at the end of this. But it's not going to, I'm going to try to keep the presentation to about 60 minutes. Okay, so let's first start here. I am a firm believer in really taking time and closing your eyes and picturing yourself, whatever goal it might be in your life. Right now, we're talking about getting to a healthy weight, and you really, truly need to believe that you can do that, and you need to see yourself there. So as we go through this, if you're having any type of thoughts that are going through your mind right now, like, oh my gosh, here we go again, she's going to just talk about the same stuff, like that is what I was referring to. That's negative talk. That's going to kind of keep you in that cycle. Change the talk track to, you know what, I'm going to really believe it this time, and things are going to be different, because it truly is one of the most important things you can do. So, does this sound like you? You have a difficult time losing weight no matter what you try. You gain all your weight back after you lose it. You have digestive issues, or you get bloated after you eat. You have fatigue throughout the day, or just later afternoon. All of these things we hear every single day. And I tell people, because we see it so much, and we begin to think it's normal. It's not normal. So that's why we have to dig into other things, which our next thing is looking into the gut. So the gut, and I talk about this a lot, people might think that this is something new. And I am here to tell you that this is not new information. We have known about the gut being the foundation to health for so long. As you can see, Hippocrates, which was obviously one of the most renowned physicians of, in the history of time, and he said over and over that all disease begins in the gut. So this is just me bringing this to surface, because again, the way that our healthcare system is set up, it is set up to wait till you get to an illness or a diagnosis and then they treat it. It is not about cultivating and curing and reversing disease. So this is really where my passion lies, because I think we can do so much to these dire statistics about sick people, obese people. And that's essentially what my passion is I want to help people. And that really is education. So when you look at the image that says healthy gut versus leaky gut, this probably is not going to make much sense to you. But if you just think of your bloodstream on the opposite side of this one cell layer thick wall that is supposed to be very, very secure and very, very tight, nothing gets through, because it's your bloodstream. It is the gateway to every aspect and every cell of your body. And then all of a sudden, someone invades it and opens up the gate. Now you're in trouble. And that's essentially what happens in our body, because our gut is our first line of defense. And now it's been basically damaged and broken down. Many of you probably have not heard of the term microbiome, but essentially what the microbiome is, you can see here, this is the gut of the body, but essentially the gut can be the entire system. It can be from the mouth to the anus here. And the microbiome is bacteria, so many different organisms that basically reside everywhere. And we are actually made up of trillions and trillions of organisms. We have actually more bacterial cells than we do human cells. So that's really the foundation of our body. And so this ecosystem, or all of these organisms that reside in our gut regulate our weight. It regulates our immune function, digestive function, our mood, and our overall mental health. What we feed our body feeds our microbiome, which in turn really affects our mind and our entire system. And so we don't refer to the gut as our brain, but essentially it is referred to as the second brain, because it's constantly communicating to the brain. And if you have a compromised gut, if you have, IBS, Crohn's, if you have bloating, constipation, you're probably dealing with brain issues. And it's not like, I'm saying that you have like Alzheimer's or dementia yet, but you probably have maybe like anxiety, depression, you're short-tempered. Kids that have gut issues have ADHD. So they're constantly communicating. This is a very important concept to understand. So when you're in balance, you feel amazing. You have energy, you're not bloated, you just overall, you have good vitality. When you're out of balance, you're sad, you're hungry, you get very agitated, you have brain fog, you're bloated, so you feel that. So just keep that in mind, because if you feel that way, there's an imbalance going on. So I talked about the wall that's supposed to keep everything out. That is our epithelial cellular wall. So as it starts to separate due to many things, or inflammation, there are many things that pass through that should not pass through. So gluten is one thing, and that's why people have gluten sensitivities, because our bloodstream is not supposed to get these whole proteins. And then you have things like parasites, bad bacteria, because there's good bacteria and bad bacteria, toxins, heavy metals, undigested food particles, mold spores, you name it, it can all get into the bloodstream. And the good thing, I guess, is that our immune system, we have immune cells that sit within the gut tissue, because it will be prepared to attack anything that comes through. But now, because there are so many holes, that's where autoimmunity starts to set in, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so when do things start to get really bad? It usually is a combination of things, and it's kind of like that perfect storm. Although some things, if you're doing one thing over and over, it's like destined to start the cascade. If you are a highly stressed person, that in itself, because of different hormones that are fluctuating due to the stressful situations, that in itself can cause the inflammation. If you're not getting enough sleep, sleep is when our body repairs and regenerates. That's huge. Obviously, eating, that's another whole presentation in itself. Food poisoning. Let's just say you were on vacation in Mexico, because that's usually where it happens. And you were in your room because you had some type of food poisoning. That may not be a short-term problem. Even though you feel a little bit better now, pay attention to how you feel moving forward, because that may have lasting effects. If you have been on antibiotics for a long period of time, or steroids, or anything for reflux, those medications are going to basically do what you see in that image. Environmental toxins, if you live in a home that has had water damage, if you get very symptomatic in certain areas, whether it's in your home or at work, maybe there's an environmental factor. You're breathing that in every single day. And the last thing is, like I had mentioned, is the negative self-talk, the things we tell ourselves, the things we feed our brain, that in itself, believe it or not, can create this inflammation in the body. Okay, so let's talk about the positive parts, the positive side of things. Let's talk about Pete. Pete, who has become such a great friend of mine. And I wanted to first really point out a couple patients who they've not only lost weight and have had a ton of success, but they have maintained it over 2 years, and they have just totally turned around their lifestyle when they came from a pretty dire place. I talk about this story all the time, but he came to us. He had never even gone on a diet in his life. You can see the picture to the left. He had no idea. So he was like, I am super tired. I eat Tums like they're candy. And I'm going to try this, but honestly, I just don't think it's going to work. And he just wanted to feel better and he wanted to learn how to eat. And so my little friend here is this weight has been maintained for like a year and a half. He lost 90 pounds his first year, but as you can see, he started at 308. He's at 217.9. So his BMI went from 40.7 to 28.8. This is the most significant part. This is what I talk about changes your health. When you're carrying around 135 pounds of fat and now you're carrying around only 52 pounds of fat, that's going to change everything. So he's completely a different person. And the visceral fat, which we will talk a little bit more about, which is that deeper belly fat, went from 20, which is the maximum that our scale goes, and he went down to an 8, which is within normal range. So the top 3 tips for optimal gut health are going to be to reduce inflammation and infections. Believe it or not, I could go on and on. People are walking around with infections. We need to build a healthy gut lining so that we keep all of the bad stuff out, and we have to get diversity in our ecosystem. Strategic nutrition and supplementation is going to be key, because what works for you may not work for the next person. Everyone is different. But again, we are able to bring that together in a way so that personalizing your long-term success is exactly what we're able to do. So you might be thinking right now, okay, so let's just say I have gut issues. Let's say I have things that, I'm reactive to. Why does that affect my weight gain, or why would I gain weight? Well, first off, because you're inflamed. So when you have an injury to your gut, it's like an injury to any part of your body. If you have a broken foot, it is inflamed, you're not going to go run on it. But what we do is we tend to still damage an injury that we have in our gut. So we continue to eat the bad foods, we continue to practice bad lifestyle habits, and so it exacerbates the problem. And whenever you have an injury, the response is the body draws water to protect it. So now you have fluid retention. And your body's not going to release that until it feels safe enough to do that. Nutrient depletion is so common because if you think about it, if you have an injury to the organ that absorbs your nutrients, you're not going to be absorbing all of your nutrients. So nutrient deficiencies is huge. Fat malabsorption is another big issue. Again, it goes along with, you're expecting an injured organ to basically absorb all of the essential fatty acids. It just literally does not happen. The gut is where the immune system lies. So if you have a compromised gut, your immune system is affected. It is just as simple as that. You are now susceptible to other infections, other overgrowth of organisms that we'll talk briefly about. And if you are somebody who has just massive sugar cravings, yes, that can be an emotional thing for sure. It can be, hormones are a result of gut issues as well, but it is likely due to some overgrowth of specific strains of yeast in our gut that drives these cravings that we'll talk a little bit more about. If you have food sensitivities, that is a major warning sign for a leaky gut. And when I refer to a leaky gut, I'm talking about that wall that now is beginning to open up. And again, if you have a leaky gut, now your immune system is affected and it's working on overdrive because so many different things are getting into the bloodstream that should not get there. So, examples of autoimmunity. So, autoimmune disease is skyrocketing. And again, just to bring us all at a level playing field, autoimmunity is basically your own immune system attacking your own tissue, your own organs. So diabetes, hypothyroidism, you know, for me, which was Hashimoto's, was attacking my own thyroid, MS, arthritis, Crohn's, colitis. So when you have these conditions, you have malabsorption. So you're not absorbing, you're not digesting. And so that creates a whole slew of ongoing issues. And again, the biggest part are the key nutrients that are so important to human health. Okay, so I'm not going to go through this slide in detail at all. And I was going to eliminate it. And then I thought, I'm just going to touch on it briefly because I don't know, wherever I am, I listen to people talk and they're talking about dairy and they don't do well with dairy and they have lactose intolerance. And, sometimes I have the opportunity to say, oh, how do you know you have lactose intolerance? Nobody ever knows. They always just say, oh, I don't do well with dairy. Just please understand that if you don't do well with dairy, there's usually a reason for it. And so it's worth looking into that because the reason why is probably the most important piece. And there are many different forms of the symptoms that you have when you eat or consume dairy. So just kind of keep that in mind if you've been told that. What I will say is most people don't do well with cow's milk. We were not born with the enzyme, enough enzyme, I should say, enough enzyme to break down cow's protein. Cow's protein was basically made for calves. And so if you don't do well with dairy and you feel those symptoms, I would really encourage you to eliminate it because every time you do consume it, you are breaking, you're pulling apart those walls, which are, obviously creating more problems. Candida. So Candida is a normal part of our ecosystem. Candida is a normal part of the intestines, and it can actually be anywhere in the body. However, this can get really, really bad and grow out of control very, very quick. And it's actually not bacteria, it's actually a yeast or fungus. So the overgrowth usually starts in the intestines, but then if it expands, it goes anywhere. And so if you're like, for an example, yeast infections, some women will have these reoccurring yeast infections. That's a candida overgrowth. That's a gut issue. If you have certain issue, even in like cognitive issues, it can actually travel to the brain and cause brain fog and things like that. So there's so many different things that yeast can do because it's invasive, and we have to keep this yeast or this organism at bay, otherwise it can cause problems. And the reason being is because when it grows out of control, it actually secretes toxins all of the time. So some people who have a lot of yeast overgrowth or candida overgrowth, they'll feel that, when we're trying to detox it, they excrete the toxins and your body tries to get rid of it, but they'll feel that fatigue and the dizziness and things like that. But the other main thing is it depletes your body of magnesium and potassium, one of the two most important nutrients. Like I said, it can travel to other parts of the bodies, the joints. If you have, chronic fatigue, if you have chronic sinus infections, respiratory infections, that could be from a yeast overgrowth. And the big thing with candida is because it travels everywhere and it overgrows very easily, your immune system now is overworked. And even though we don't know, we just think we're tired, but our immune system is working so hard for us at all times. And if you're a person who is constantly fatigued, there's a good chance your body is it's working a lot to try to keep you healthy, believe it or not. LPS, so lipopolysaccharides. So when you look at all of the bacteria that reside in our body, primarily in our gut, there's certain bacteria that do certain things, and there's bad bacteria and good bacteria. And so there's this bacteria that is part of what we refer to as gram-negative. Probably remember this in science lab. Well, this bacteria produces LPS, which is inflammation. So if you have an overgrowth of E. coli or Klebsiella, Enterobacter, Proteus mirabilis, these are specific strains that are very inflammatory. So obviously we do the test to see, where the overgrowth is, and we can strategically decrease that. But this is why it's so personalized, because, if you don't really know what your makeup is, if you don't know what type of balance you have in your body, a keto diet may be the worst thing for you, and you don't really even realize it, because actually a high-fat diet can produce more of these gram-negative bacteria. So this is where personalization can really be helpful. So we're going to talk briefly about what the gut or the microbiome looks like of an obese person. And this is years and years of research that has been done. And so what we know is that someone who is obese, and obese is in excess of fat. So an excess of fat is different than just being overweight or, having fat stores and things like that. So this is excess fat. So there are certain bacteria that really manufacture this energy balance. So there's poor energy balance, meaning there's not good energy. I can't think of the word, but basically burning calories. Glucose metabolism. So poor glucose metabolism, and then there's this low-grade inflammation. So anyone who has a BMI, technically obesity is a BMI of 30. I don't know if it's necessarily 30, but when you're in an obese state, you have inflammation. That is just the nature of that particular state. What we also know is that anyone who is obese, they have a low diversity of bacterial strains. So what you will see in these next couple of slides is that we have many different strains of bacteria. And the obese people actually have very few strains. They have a lot, but there's only maybe 2 or 3 different ones when they really should have like 50. So what we know from studies is that a high processed food diet obviously destroys a lot of the healthy bacteria. So that's what really results in this low diversity. I'm not going to really talk much about this. This will make more sense later, but there are certain bacteria that fall under Firmicutes and Bacteroidetes. And essentially, if you have a high amount of these Firmicutes, then this has been shown to be very correlated with high fat stores. So they don't burn fat very, very well. H. pylori is just another bacterial infection that so many people have. Oh my gosh. We do these tests all the time, and I would say 75 to 80% of people are walking down with a H. pylori infection. So, and that can reduce the hunger hormone, which obviously regulates your ability. So you maybe are hungry all the time. And I'm not going to really touch on this because we haven't really talked about short chain fatty acids, but there are certain bacteria that actually will utilize food more readily. So meaning they will extract more calories from the food. So again, here's where you will see that the gut microbiome, if it is way off balance, you are more prone to basically be overweight or obese because the balance is so off. So how can we fix this? Here's the obvious things. Common foods that damage that lining: gluten, dairy. Sorry, sushi lovers. I mean, sushi is, unless you're going to a really good, actually, even the really nice restaurants, you can't avoid having parasites in sushi. That's just where they live. That's why they give wasabi sauce with sushi, because they know there's parasites and wasabi will kill it. So be mindful of that. Anything that's GMO, processed sugar will destroy the intestinal lining. Actually, beans can as well. So this is debatable. Everyone is different, but soaking, most people will say just soak them and then you're fine, which is true. And rice, wheat, and soy. Okay, so what does a lean microbiome look like? A lean microbiome is rich in diversity. There are many different strains, and this is how they're able to do what they need to do to keep you healthy. There's a specific strain, which again, we are looking at all of these in the stool testing that we do, but there's a very specific strain called Akkermansia that we know study after study has shown to be correlated with a leaner body. It reduces inflammation and it reduces excess fat. It also restores, the intestinal lining. High fat and alcohol use can reduce the amount of it, so that's not good. And obviously, a really high fiber diet is going to increase it. So, high fiber prebiotics, which we'll talk briefly about. So essentially, how do you cultivate a leaner gut? So again, you want to increase the strains that are going to be good fat metabolizers. You want to decrease the ones that are causing inflammation in your body and really, causing destruction and damage. Nutrients that heal the gut are so important, and many people are actually very deficient in those core nutrients. You want to identify some of those common nutrients for weight loss, because there is a number of nutrients that are so essential for the body to actually lose weight. Minimize strains that cause constipation. We do know that there is a specific group of bacteria that are just gas producers, and these gas producers basically cause these debilitating constipation issues. Reduce organisms that drive cravings. So Candida, I had mentioned, is yeast. And these bad boys will drive you to crave sugars because, as most of you know, yeast thrives off of sugar. Just like, when they make wine, they create it by giving yeast and it ferments. So the same thing happens in our body. Like these organisms, if you were to never eat sugar, a lot of it would die off because it would starve. And again, just knowing how to feed those organisms for a leaner gut. I want to talk just briefly about probiotics and just give you some general facts on this. So a probiotic, for most of you that don't know, is actually a live bacteria that is considered beneficial to the host, which is us, the human body. We are just a host to all of these organisms. And so again, a probiotic, you know, when you take it, it is beneficial. It has serves benefits to the human body. Now, there are certain foods that claim, you know, that they have probiotics. So yogurt, fermented milk, kimchi, kombucha, etc. These all can have probiotics, but they're no longer allowed to consider themselves a probiotic like a supplement is, because there's really no regulation. And as for a supplement, they know exactly what's in there. They know they can put it on the label, but in a food, you really can't. So they can market it in a different way, and some of it can be very healthy, but they're really no longer considered a probiotic. What's important to know is that, you know, we have all of this bacteria. We have good bacteria and we have very, very bad bacteria. So when we take a probiotic, we're hoping to fill our system with healthy bacteria, which is correct, which is what we want to do. But something to keep in mind is that when you take a probiotic, it's very temporary, it's transient. So they don't colonize. So they don't set up a home and live there and flourish. They kind of go through, they serve a purpose, they help you digest your food, maybe do some other positive things, and then they're gone. So that's why it's important to take it every single day, so it can kind of help with those more temporary things that are going on. So Espellardia is, I'm not really sure why I added this here, but it is considered it's a healthy yeast. And so a lot of people are used to a probiotic, which is a beneficial bacteria. You can actually take a beneficial yeast as well. So if you have Candida, which was an overgrowth of the very bad yeast, you can take something to offset it. So take the beneficial yeast. And it's very, very effective, actually. This is just an example of what we know today. This is the research. This is where basically the research is going. We know that there's certain strains that help with weight loss. So not that I'm going to read every single one of these, but this is just an example to show you that when we're looking at certain probiotics and we're bringing those to our clinic, or we're putting those on our dispenser through our online dispensary, this is how strategic we are with picking the right stuff, because nobody knows about this stuff, but we're able, based on all of the research that we know, we can be very strategic with this stuff. So there are some weight loss strains that have been put together in a supplement, and these are some of the supplements that have been obviously through research studies and shown benefit. So again, just as a summary, for a lean gut, you have got to diversify your diet: fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans. Fiber is what feeds the healthy bacteria, bottom line. We've been hearing this forever. We just all don't eat a lot of, my battery's running low. Oh gosh, I hope I don't conk out here. So the other aspect is prebiotics. So this is different than probiotics. Prebiotics actually feeds the existing healthy bacteria in your gut. Very different, almost more important than the probiotics. So again, we do the testing. We have an amazing test that looks at the whole ecosystem. So if this is interesting to you, reach out to us. Nutrients to heal the gut. These are certain things that we know heal our intestinal lining. So lifestyle factors that are just as important, obviously look at your medication, processed foods, these artificial drinks, get good sleep, practice good sleep hygiene. We don't need to eat all day long. 3 meals a day is excellent. If you're an intermittent faster, that's probably even better. Over exercising actually can be a huge stress on the body and cause gut issues. So keep that in mind and really control your stress. It is very important. So what can you expect when you start to heal the gut? These are all things that start to happen. And it's like this domino effect. Clear skin, you know, obviously you're reducing your disease risk. You notice your brain, your cognitive function, better energy. I mean, the list goes on. It is like you fix the foundation and good things happen. Oops. As I said, digging a little deeper, we do a number of different tests, and we can look down in our GI testing, we can look at the specific bacteria. So as you can see, if you're elevated in certain strains that are inflammatory or certain strains that are good fat reservers, well, then we need to create more of a balance to make sure that you regain that balance so that you can start to burn fat and lose weight. And food sensitivities, we haven't talked much about it. It is so important because if you're eating foods that are a grenade to your gut lining, and it could be healthy foods, it's continuously, you could be doing supplements and doing all the right things. But if it's the apricots and the blueberries that you had no idea about, it's this ongoing cycle that leads you to no results. So keep food sensitivities in mind as well. So weight loss, the untold story. Again, our ecosystem is really determining a lot of what happens within our body. Obviously, the more obvious things come into play. Okay, I honestly apologize, but I have to get my plug because I am going to lose this. So 1 second, everyone take a break. I'm back. All right, so like I said, our ecosystem is going to determine a lot of how we burn energy or how we utilize sugar or glucose, the inflammation in our body, how we metabolize fat, and determine whether we are a lean or an obese body. So a little bit about us at Weight Loss MD. So we are the only medical weight loss clinic owned and founded by a registered dietitian. So that is my background. This is why we believe that nutrition truly is the foundation, and you have to bring that in and teach, because all of the other stuff is going to be short term if you kind of miss that big piece. We surely believe that identifying other root issues is so important. We develop all of our programs, and so we're not at all a cookie cutter of, here's your meal plan, these are the foods you can have. That's not what this is about. We really want to help people get healthier and live a healthier, vibrant rest of their life. I mean, that's you get one life to live on this planet. So we're all about helping you maximize that for sure. We are experts in weight loss because it's all we do. It's all we do every day. We don't, it's not a side service for us. We are super passionate about it, and we're always finding new ways to bring it to our patients. All right. If any of you have not heard about Dan, this is Dan. Dan came to us a while ago, maybe 2-3 years ago. And this is what he looked like. And so he had, he was in denial. I'll never forget when he walked in the room and he had to sit down and he said he just needed help, but he ate well. And so I felt like, okay, there was a lot of work that needed to be done. And over the course of the year, he kind of broke every record known to man. And as you can see, he walked in at 420. After 1 year, he was 223. This is what will blow even my mind after being doing this for so long. In 1 year, he was 230 pounds of his body fat. 230 pounds of his total weight was fat. And in 1 year, it went down to 46 pounds. It's just incredible. Visceral fat, which was 20, which was the max you could ever go, and then went down to 10, which is a normal level. And here he is. And this is not even as much of a recent picture that I would have liked, because I know he's like going strong and super into exercising and all of that. So yeah, he definitely changed his lifestyle. So just to recap all of that you just heard, is that health cannot be achieved if the gut and the brain are ignored. Weight loss will never be maintained by just thinking you can go on a low-calorie diet and you can exercise more. Doesn't work. Food sensitivities and GI symptoms are not normal and not just what you have. So figure out what's going on so you can fix it. Brain fog, migraines, fatigue, sugar cravings, etc. The list goes on. Again, this is not just an unfortunate thing. Dig deep into that, because there's an underlying condition, and it usually always goes back to 80% of chronic diseases are preventable and curable, which is crazy. So our VIP. So here's basically what we've spent so much time developing, because we are, and when I say we, I'm talking about myself and my director of clinical operations, Erica, who's on this, but she has to do the job of like fielding, certain things. We really wanted to create a program that was going to address all the important aspects of not only weight loss, but how you can maintain it. So, and we wanted to make it virtual because we wanted to make it more affordable, and we wanted to make it available to anyone, anywhere. So it includes all the components necessary for long-term success. And at the end of it, we are going to basically walk you through, you will walk yourself through basically with our guidance on how to create your own personal plan. So who is a good fit for this? Anyone. Everyone and anyone. So basically people looking to advance your health and nutrition knowledge. You've tried many programs without success. You're confused and frustrated because you go online and you're like, okay, what do I do? If you are someone who does have autoimmune conditions, food sensitivities, diabetes, chronic fatigue, this is going to be the program for you. And if you are looking for flexibility but still need that accountability, I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, but that's what we really wanted to bring into this program, all of those aspects. But before I do that, I think it's important that you see we have so many different successful patients from just all different programs that they have done. And this is more of a shorter program. So this is 3 weeks of HCG, loss of 23 pounds, 20 pounds of it was just fat. We have our 4-week HCA program, which is another quick weight loss program that we offer. 22 pounds and 17 pounds of that was just total fat. So you can see, she just looks like a different person. This is Andy. He did our VIP program. He lost 80 pounds, and within that program within that time frame was 63 pounds of that was fat. Sean, good old Sean. This guy was a GI mess, autoimmune. He had like 4 different autoimmune conditions, and he was such a trooper. He did so well. He lost 74 pounds, and 70 pounds of it was fat. So again, you could see he just looks like a different person. So this is another person, again, did our VIP3, lost 55 pounds. He's still going strong. So a lot of these people are still going at it. It's just that these are the results that we have right now. So why this works so well is because we teach the proper foundational issues and nutrition. We provide structure and accountability. We have very detailed meal plans and grocery lists. We have an integrated app and scale, which I'll talk a little bit more about. We have tasks and assignments throughout this, so you're gonna progress along the way. And then there is a resource of videos, a library of videos, handouts, exercise programs along the way. This is our integrated scale, it's body composition. So you basically step on that, when you step on that in the morning in your home, that gets uploaded into our system. So it's just as if you were to come into our clinic. And so obviously that's going to help with accountability. And it obviously helps us a lot for you for just customizing and planning for maintenance, because it tells you what your metabolic rate should be, or the calories that you should be at. So it measures your weight, body fat, visceral fat, muscle mass, and water weight. So it's not just a scale, it measures much more than that. This is basically how our program is set up. And so it's divided up into different phases, but essentially phase 1 is the intro and prep. So it's really getting you organized, cleaning up your diet, giving you tips for your environment. Phase 3 is more of an aggressive weight loss. So you're doing either our HCA or HCG. So that's 4 weeks long. So we know you will have significant success for just weight loss during this phase. And then phase 3 is more of the long-term success. We're digging deeper into behaviors, mindfulness, habits, and things like that. And I just wanted to touch on, we talk about our quick weight loss programs all the time, and they truly are different. They truly are, because you have to be strategic in how the body loses weight, because if you don't lose the right fat, the fat comes back very quickly. And it's not to say that, you do our program and then you can go back to the way you were, and then you're not going to gain the weight. Obviously you have to be smart when you after you finish a program, but that's why we teach you to do those things. But here's the big difference. So a person this particular person doesn't have a lot of fat. This person has, on the outside, they look similar. This person has a big belly. This person has a big belly. This person has a lot right below the skin layer. This is referred to as subcutaneous fat. It actually doesn't look great, but it's not as harmful as this person, because their fat is deep and it lines the internal organs, as you can see here. So I just had a conversation today about a woman who had her liver enzymes were elevated, and she's like, well, why are my liver enzymes elevated? And I said, well, because your visceral fat, which is this, is basically your liver is saturated in fat tissue. So now it's not able to function properly. And so this is what's happening with obesity, centralized visceral fat obesity, is that all of the other organs are now being affected by that. This is not just about being over fat. This is about the entire body being affected. And this just gives you an example of that. So excess fat everywhere in the body affects certain things. And the more centralized is, like I said, the visceral. So that is your biggest risk for diabetes. So insulin resistance, excess fat near the heart, excess fat around the heart causes cardiovascular disease. So depending on where the fat is depositing, it creates its own chronic disease state, basically. So you just ask yourself a question. What is your health, or what is your health worth to you? And I do ask people this question because, and I am not going to lie, obviously health is very important to me. I invest, a lot of money. I take care of myself, and, I just don't think about it because I feel like it's so worth it. And so think about those things. And it's not even about the money. Sometimes I think we just neglect ourselves because we're so worried about other things or other people. And that can be just as destructive because we do, I see so many people, and they're forgetting that this is them, but they're taking care of their parents and everybody else. But at the end of the day, if you're left here with nothing, how can you really help other people? So really, really think about that. 80% of chronic illnesses are preventable, and this has been proven over and over. So basically that means every disease state, 80% of them are because of our lifestyle decisions. Healthcare costs are the number one reason people lose their lifetime savings. Our programs are obviously, some programs are very doable. They're not expensive. Our longer programs are a little more expensive, but when you compare that to a doctor visit or to a medication or to a surgery, I mean, it's literally a drop in the bucket. So when you're factoring priorities and factoring, okay, how do I want to change my lifestyle? Keep those things in mind. So if nothing has worked for you yet, then we obviously can change the way that you've really looked at weight loss. And again, ultimately, we really want to we don't want you to come back anymore. We want to get you in a place where you can lose weight, feel great, and maybe you come back just for maintenance or certain things that now just enhance your health. So why is the VIP3 program different? So we created this because we know that there are components that are necessary to teach and to incorporate for long-term success. So we've done that. We are monitoring your body composition changes. Most people that go on diets, who knows what you're losing? What if you lost the majority as muscle? That puts you at a no better place. Just because you've lost it on the scale, it doesn't mean that you're healthier. So you have to know what you're losing. We provide you with weekly goals and tasks for guaranteed results. We want to create a balance in your body and detox the body. I mean, that is essentially the first step. It's 100% online, and you have full accountability. And we give you simplified meal plans, grocery lists, daily support. So you're going to know there's not going to be any confusion. This is just an example of all the really fun stuff. Okay, so our VIP program, if anyone is interested in joining our VIP program, the total cost is $897 for 3 months. So if you want to break up your payments, you can do 3 payments of $335. If you want to pay in full and save $108, you can do that. There is a sign up at below in the chat box, as you all are probably viewing right now. And what I will tell you, so this will close in, I forget what the close date is. I think it's in, I don't know. I'm going to go to the dates right here, important dates. So it starts on April 1st. So introduction and prep materials start on April 1st. April 5th, so right after Easter, is when phase 1 of the program will start. That is when you will have your virtual assessment appointments. You'll receive all of your supplies and we'll kind of set you up on everything. April 19th is when phase 2 is more of our quick weight loss. So that's when you're honed in pretty closely with what we're focusing on. And then May 17th is phase 3, gut support and foundational lifestyle components. So anyone who's still on here, you are going to get our quick start guide, which if anything, at least you have this, because honestly, just doing these 5 things is going to put you in a healthier state for sure. And what I will tell you, because this is our last webinar before the program starts, and anyone who signs up today, they will get a complimentary one-on-one session with either myself or one of our other dietitian nutritionists. And essentially, it'll be more of a personalized appointment of, individualized support, getting you up and running before the program or during the program. So you have that option. And we are actually offering $100 off of the program if you sign up today as well. So starting tomorrow, that's not going to be available. So if you are at all interested in joining us, then you are going to want to take advantage of that. So I think this is our last slide. And so this is a poem that was read to me by a little girl, and I thought it was so profound and important for the work that I do and the people that I work with. But it is all about being kind to yourself. And there's never a better time to be kind, to remind yourself of how far you've come and not bringing up how far you need to go. To care for yourself in a way that only you can without relying on words and actions of others. To fall in love and taking care of yourself without feeling obligated or guilty for it. It's time to create an unbreakable love for yourself that cannot be unbroken by unkind words or actions of others. So I will leave you with that, and I will open it up for any questions right now.
All right, Sherry, most of the questions were answered, but I do have one asking, how is this program different? You mentioned that towards the beginning. How is this different than our other programs?
Yeah, so what we essentially wanted to do is we knew that there was always the missing component of the foundational nutrition and kind of cleaning up the body before you went straight into more of the aggressive weight loss. And then there was the behavioral changes and all that needed to happen afterwards, more of that transition and maintenance. So this is not a program that is basically throwing people into following something structured right off the bat. This is really cultivating not only the environment, but the body, so that it's set up for even better success when you do weight loss, and then obviously for long-term, because then we'll focus more on the behaviors and the needed lifestyle changes.
All right, that sounds great. And then one other one about supplements. You shared several different supplements in this presentation, whether it were probiotics or things that were good for the gut. How does someone go about starting on supplements, and which ones would you recommend for people?
Yeah, okay. So we do a lot with supplements, a lot. And we actually will just do consultations on, really strategizing a supplement regimen for an individual. So there definitely is some generalized supplements that everyone needs to go on. And I encourage people to go to my podcast at Weighing In with Wayless MD, because I talk a lot about just general wellness supplements. But if somebody is looking for more of those strategic, more individualized supplements, then I encourage you to call, because we will do a free consultation for that. But for this particular program, that's just part of it. We're supporting and we're talking about the most ideal supplements along the way.
Okay, great. And I just do have one more question. What's the difference between the HCA program and the HCG program?
Yeah, so HCG is kind of like our bread and butter. Most people have heard about the original protocol that was 500 calories. We don't do that. We do a modified version, and that is, it's still injection, so it's human chorionic gonadotropin. Very, very, very effective. Won't get into so much detail about that, but we decided to create an alternative for people that really couldn't do HCG or didn't want to do HCG because of, the injection component. So the HCA were blown away by the results that we're getting when we launched this about 2 years ago. And that basically is taking 3 different supplements that work synergistically to, again, mobilize that difficult fat, but you are following a pretty structured plan. So it's all laid out. But the cool thing is, for HCA, you can exercise on that, whereas the HCG, we really limit that. So they're similar, but there's nuances depending on, what's going to work for the individual.
All right, great. I think that's it then.
Okay, awesome. That felt really long. I hope that wasn't too long. All right, thank you so much, everybody. We look forward to hearing from you all. You can still reach out with any questions at admin@waylessmd or call for further questions. So thank you so much.